Hi, welcome to episode 3 of Beyond the Veil, a very special episode. We are actually not talking about Only Gossamer My Gown this time. I'm going to be telling you about our brand new single that just came out February of 2021, a song called ETHERIA, the theme from the TV show The Ghost Finders, which is a fantastic paranormal investigation show. We're going to put links and all that good stuff in the description below. If you're not watching that show, you need to be watching that show, especially because you can watch a show about ghosts and haunted places and listen to Valentine Wolf. Like, that, I'm into that. So let's get the YouTube commercial bits out of the way. First of all, if you like what you're seeing and hearing, be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell. You are all YouTube pros at this point. You know what to do. But also, I have to say that, I get to say that this episode of Beyond the Veil, as all of them, are brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. And me joking aside, seriously, the reason there is a band right now is because of our supporters on Patreon, especially the Denizens of Montresor Cellar, that excellent vintage. So special thanks to our those folks on Patreon who've made this video possible. So commercial bits over, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We've gotten it out of the way. Let's get into the good stuff. So the story behind the song we're going to tell you about today, we're going to talk about ETHERIA, which is a new Valentine Wolf song. It is a Bandcamp exclusive, which means you need to go to valentinewolf.bandcamp.com to listen to or purchase that particular track. And I'm going to tell you why here in a few moments, but ETHERIA is a Bandcamp exclusive. It is the theme to the TV show The Ghost Finders, the most watched indie paranormal investigation show like in America and a bunch of other places. We are super huge fans, and we're going to talk about those wonderful people who make that show for you. And that's how our story begins. It begins way back in 2017. We came out with a record called The Elegiac Repose. And there was a song on that album called Taphophilia, which is one of our favorites. I say that about all of our songs, but we really like our music. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but we really do. And I'm not sure how the Ghost Finders our music got on the Ghost Finders radar. I can tell you how I remember it, even though my memory is likely inaccurate, and there's a good reason for that. One of the wonderful cast members, the Ghost Finders, one of the wonderful people you will check out if you watch that show, is our good friend named Megan. And Megan and her husband Ernie are people who we have been friends with so long. I'm well aware we were making music and performing it before we met them, but you meet certain people and there's that, like, you feel like you've known them for forever. And that's who Ernie and Megan are for us. It's very difficult for me to remember a time where I didn't know them. And I'm pretty sure Megan is how Rob and Heather of the Ghost Finders heard our music for the first time. I'm sure that's how this all started. They asked us if they could use Taphophilia as the opening music for one of their episodes, and we're like, absolutely, of course. Paranormal investigation show, our music, yes. I mean, why not? And that kicked off a ordeal that I think I'm not alone in saying. Rob and I are going to kind of form a, back of the bar, having a pint together support group over the ordeal we went through together. And to avoid going on a Henry Rollins-esque rant and derailing the whole story of how this song came to be, I will just say, when it comes to copyright, and when it comes to protecting artists, and when it comes to how the internet does or does not do that, I've got some thoughts. And I'm sure Rob does too. So, getting through all of that in the middle of this, and I'm serious, this ordeal that we all went on, it went on over a year. It was absurd. At one point, Sarah said, look, I will just write you all new music. Let's do that. Let's do that plan. And for a variety of reasons, that really wasn't the most practical option for everybody involved. But I think that's where the idea of us writing some brand new music for Ghost Finders got started. And fast forward a couple of years later, they emailed us and said, hey, we're getting ready to launch a new season. Would you still like to write us some music? And we were like, yeah, absolutely. You're amazing people. The show's just phenomenal. We would be honored. and they said, okay, well, here are some tracks we like. This is kind of what the direction we want to go in. And Rob in particular said, hey, can we have a choir of 1,000 angels singing on this track? And we said, sure, no problem. We just happen to have an 1,000 angel choir hanging out in our studio. We didn't say the 1,000 angel choir part, but what we did say was like, yeah, we can do that because, my wife, Sarah, the main composer and singer in Valentine Wolf, is phenomenal. She's like, yeah, I can do that. So we started trying to figure out how are we going to get that angel choir with just one vocalist. And obviously we thought, well, she could just sing all the parts in 1,000 times and we could see what happens. And she was really into that idea for maybe a half hour, longer than you would think, before we realized how long it would take to record Sarah singing in 1,000 times. And we thought, okay, well, maybe we need to do something a little different with that particular part. This is why, and hang with me here, this is going to get a little weird. This is why I love sleight of hand tricks and magic and Penn and Teller and Houdini and great magicians and things like that. And it's particularly the movie The Prestige, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's because so much of recorded music that falls into the that sounds right category are things that that's just not how sound works. That's just not how humans hear. So there's a lot of sort of more than meets the ear that has to go on when you make a recording. And so what we did to get this 1,000 angel choir thing that Rob had asked for was it involved doing all kinds of things to Sarah's voice. And she did multi-track a lot of parts in. Multi-track meaning she sang some parts in more than once, and we kind of layered the parts in. I could tell you when you listen to ETHERIA, I hate to disappoint you, there's not 1,000 Sarahs on there, but the challenge was like, how do we make it sound that way? The other thing that we did was Heather, the executive producer of Ghost Finders, had some really cool notes about tempo and vibe and things like that. Now, I'm going to pause here because this may be like, okay, so I'm talking about a Valentine Wolf song, and I'm also talking about how people who are not in the band are telling us how to write it. Now, the reason that's totally fine with us and okay is simply that a lot of our musical heroes worked that way. The idea of the great composer, the great songwriter sort of looking up at the muse saying, please dictate to me thine masterpiece. That's not how a lot of composers and a lot of songwriters work. That's it's a very romantic image. It's a very great made-for-TV image. But a lot of composers would be like, wait, what? No. Again, it's a massive oversimplification, but one of probably the composer that gets played the most at the Valentine Wolf studio, Johann Sebastian Bach, really functioned in the space of, well, it's Tuesday. I work for a church. We need music for church on Sunday. Better get some manuscript paper out and get to work. So at the risk of demoralizing people who think that we just sort of wait for this sort of Gothic muse, this cross between Saint Cecilia and Lucy from Dracula to dictate us the next Gothic metal masterpiece, we're like, whenever we get a request for music, and people say, this is kind of what we're looking for, the first question Sarah and I ask are like, okay, well, how long does the cue need to be and when do you need it? So very, very, very basic stuff. They said 30 seconds, and they sent us a couple sample cues. We worked on the choir of Sarah's like we talked about, but the next thing was tempo and vibe and feel. Heather pointed out that she felt that what we were doing was really slow and kind of just, it didn't have a lot of energy. And really the first cues we did had this, if you listen to our music, we love these long intros, these sort of very Gothic once upon a time bits that all of a sudden kick into something rocking. But even we started thinking, hey, if it's a TV show, we need to get to the ghost right away. You guys need to hear the ghost appearing in front of your ears and eyes like that. So we rewrote some of the cue, and the more we tried to speed it up, the interesting thing was for our instincts, we were like, no, the tempo needs to be the same. What can we do to make the illusion? Remember, I talked about sleight of hand. Can we do to give it the illusion of a sped up tempo? And I remembered we are big fans of Nine Inch Nails, and they do a lot of these really cool sort of synthesizer bass, kind of these little mechanical grooves. We added that to the track, and it really just made it work. So again, shout out to Heather. That was something that we probably would not have done without her feedback. That was one of the awesome things about working on this track. There were so many cool ideas they gave us to make ETHERIA really work. The next thing we did was, once we got sort of done with the track, with the 16th notes and the choir of Sarah's and all that, I remember we sent it to Heather, and for whatever reason, the distortion that I do, that sort of down-tuned rhythm guitar trug, got taken out, and she said, well, I kind of like this. It's sort of this sort of ghostly Addams Family vibe, and we listened back to it and we were like, we really liked it. So we thought, what if we changed up how my distortion comes in and out? So again, great thoughts by working with a collaborator, and that's how it's supposed to work, right? When you meet friends and they have really cool ideas, you find out how your ideas really work well together, and it just sort of came to life for us. We're like, this is super cool. We figured out what we liked about it. We figured out what Heather was saying she liked about it, and we kept refining what we did to make it finally work. When we got finished with the track, Sarah said to me, if there was a bass solo in here, we'd have something we could put out. We would have a single. We would have enough length, because, and remember, we were working with about 30 seconds of music, and I mean, that's one of the extraordinary things about soundtracks and things like that. You have to capture the mood and get in and out so quickly. In terms of soundtracks, it's pretty obvious we love gothic music, we love heavy metal, but one thing that Sarah and I really catches our ear are horror movie soundtracks. Especially a big influence on ETHERIA was the score to Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor. Sarah and I really love the way the Newton brothers write music, so we thought, okay, how do we write a Newton brothers track that sounds like Valentine Wolf and has some metal in it? So after we got the whole thing laid out, and Sarah mentioned we should add a bass solo, we used another influence that maybe isn't very obvious when people hear it. We are huge Judas Priest fans, and I think people know that about us, but one thing we noticed about Judas Priest a long time ago is a compositional sort of technique they use is, when it comes time for the solo break for KK and Glenn, or now Richie and Glenn, and side note, we've seen the band with Richie Faulkner playing guitar, and he's amazing. Judas Priest in 2021 is just as jaw-dropping in my view. What Priest loves to do is, there's a key change, harmony change, something different happens during the solo break. So not only is it a traditional bridge, or what the Beatles would call the middle eight, Priest takes it and tweaks it a little bit and does something really cool with it. Once we noticed that's what Priest did, we started using that technique all the time. Now that I've pointed it out, if you listen back to Valentine Wolf songs, you'll hear this all the time, where we get to my solo section and we write something completely new and completely different for a little bit of contrast and drama for the listener. So we finished that, and then we emailed Heather and Rob and said, hey, we were thinking, what if we took the theme for the Ghost Finders, which is what we were calling it at that point, and expanded it to a whole new song? And they said, we were already thinking about that. We love that idea. And we said, what should we call it? And Rob suggested the title ETHERIA, and that didn't even get any workshopping. Like, he emailed us that back and we said, yes, this song is called ETHERIA. We're going with that. We put the solo section in, hit play, and we have a track that what we are really proud of. I think it's got all the elements of Valentine Wolf. It's got heavy distorted bass. It's got metal drums. It's got creepy electronica, ethereal, reverb-drenched classical musics, beautiful haunted vocals. A choir of Sarahs. Is it 1,000? I don't know. I think Rob was always asking for even more choirs of angels. We did the best we could. We think that it gets pretty close to choir, but we want you to listen to it. It's over on our Bandcamp. Why is it only on our Bandcamp? Well, do you remember all that stuff I talked about with the YouTube and copyright ordeal? That's why it's only on our Bandcamp. It's a track we're very, very proud of, and it's a track that we're proud of not only because of the music results, because of the awesome people that we got to work with this. So to everyone on the Ghost Finders, some of whom we haven't even met yet, I think one of the insane things about this COVID that we're all going through in this plague is that Sarah and I were talking, we have met so many people where there are so many steps that you have to go through for human rapport, and I'm talking about Rob and Heather, but here's the thing, I've never met them in person, but I can't wait until I do. I know that will happen one day, and we will have a drink together, we will talk about ghosts, we will talk about history, we will talk about music, and these are the moments I am living for, as I'm sure you are too. It's insane how COVID has separated us, but at the same time, because of the internet, we can all connect. And if you are looking for something to just blow your minds, to do something interesting or unique or new, the Ghost Finders. You can watch it on the Spirit channel on Roku. You can watch it a variety of places. Again, we're going to link to them in the description down below. If you're not watching that show, we highly recommend it. You get to see some really cool stuff. You get to learn a lot of cool things. You get to hear our music. We are honored to be a part of this. So definitely to Rob and Heather and everyone at the Ghost Finders, and I don't mean to leave anyone out, but especially Megan, who I do remember the first time we met. Actually, we were at a convention, Con Carolinas, in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Megan went to a State of the Goth panel with me, my beloved, and our very, very, very good friend and another amazing ghost storyteller, Tally Johnson, and we talked about goth stuff for a while, and it was a really great time. And when I found out she and her husband Ernie liked our music, it made me really happy. I know that I should be all cool and merry, I don't care who likes our music and everything, but there's certain people when they're like, I love what you're doing, it's everything. So link, comment, ask questions, please. I mean, we're doing these because we want to hear from you, we want to connect with you. Just because we have to socially distance doesn't mean we have to distance online. I know it's not the same, but it's so much better than the absolute nothing we had. So check out the track, ETHERIA, theme music from the Ghost Finders. Check their show out. Again, links in the comments and all that good stuff. And we want to thank our good friends over on Patreon, the Denizens of Montresor Cellar, and all of our supporters. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week for another episode of Beyond the Veil. Bye.